Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Agile Amplified. I'm your host Vijay, a program manager from Koi.co, and today's episode is extra special because we have a fantastic guest joining us. I'm delighted to introduce a seasoned program manager hailing all the way from the stunning landscapes of Canada, Udit Khanna. Udit brings wealth of experience and insights to the table, and we are in for a treat as we delve into the dynamic world of program management. He currently works with McAfee and is also the founder of Practical Project Management that aims at project managers to bring the best version of themselves to lead their team. So, whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting your agile journey, you're in for some valuable takeaways. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Udit.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you for having me. Looks like you did some good research on me, so thanks for doing that.
So, maybe we'll get to start in this fashion, right? So, we'll start with understanding the role of a project manager and how do we transition to a role of a project or a program manager, and how do you integrate yourself to be part of a project team. So, we'll be covering these kind of topics. Maybe I'll start off by asking about how was your journey into project management, because I see that you are from a technical background, and is that a case of accidental project management, or you were very passionate about project management and you wanted to get into and explore the depths of it?
Sure, Vijay. So, yes, I am an accidental project manager as well, as most of the project managers are. I had no intention to get into project management. Even when I studied project management, I took a course when I was studying my MBA. I decided that I don't want to be in project management because it's too stressful. You have to keep track of people and you have to keep track of things and make sure the work gets done. I thought it's too stressful and I decided I would not be a project manager. I would apply for other roles, but not project management. Surprisingly, when I started working, again, I was working before, did my MBA in Canada, started working again, and I was in a business operations role at Boeing. And I was happy. Like, I'm not doing project management, I'm doing business operations. After a few months, I realized that I am a project manager and that's what I'm doing. Even though my role says business operations, I am doing project management.
Interesting. So how did you come to that realization, like the moment that it struck you, you know what, I am project management?
So I had that formal training in project management, a course that I took during my MBA. That was the main thing that I could connect that the things I'm doing in my current job at Boeing is directly correlated to things that I learned in the classroom. So I kind of get a sense that, okay, even though I didn't want it to be in it, I'm in project management, I'm having fun, and I want to continue doing so.
Hmm. In a way, can I summarize it in such a way that, yeah, the formal education did help me with having that background to understand what I really was doing? And when I was actually getting to do that in my job, then I kind of connected the dots. Is that how you put
Exactly.
it?
Yes, I would. I was able to connect. See, each one of us are doing project management every day. You believe it or not, you say yes or no, but in reality, yes, you are doing. You have prepared for exams, right? Everyone does, right? If we study, we prepare for exams. It's like a project. You have arranged a birthday party, it's a project. Big, small, doesn't matter, but it's a project. When I studied project management, I could put those things in context. I had that vocabulary after studying project management that what we do every day, these are mini or micro projects. When I studied, then I was able to connect with my experience and I was like, I'm doing project management. And when I started looking for jobs, like I wanted to look for jobs, I was looking at business operations, business development, these kind of roles. And I didn't get any interview. I was not able to kind of articulate my experience, what I was doing. So my resumes were not good and I was not getting a job as well. So then I made a switch towards, okay, I need to apply for project manager roles. And that's when I got my PMP as well. And that's what got me an official title as a project manager.
Hmm. So once you got into the role of a project manager, now really comes the challenge, right? Because all this while, if you're working in the same company, the team has seen you as probably an architect, as a software engineer, a senior software engineer, probably. Then you all of a sudden step into project management. How do people around you take that transition in the first place before even you realize, what, this is what I'm going to do? This is, you can still communicate to people that, yeah, I've become a project manager now, but how do they come to accept that as a team?
I don't come from a IT or tech background. I come from a mechanical engineering background,
Hmm.
and now I'm working in tech. How teams perceive me is I go in as a project management expert. I have the basic understanding of IT, technology, coding, servers, cloud computing, all that. I had to bridge that gap. That's a different story. I did that, and I market myself as a project management expert who's has an understanding on project management processes and fundamentals in IT, in process improvement, in product development.
Fair enough. That makes sense now. How do you go about building that team? Like, let's say, from your own background, from a mechanical background, you want to build something. Your project sponsor has told you about, what is exactly expected of the project, though that is something that could change as and when things progress. But he's still given you an initial requirement. And now it's time for you to, set up your own team, cross-functional most cases. But how do you go about building that team? What are the things that you look for in your team?
So, as you said, project sponsor picks you or assigns you to a project, right? And the first thing every project manager should do is prepare some sort of a project initiation document. Could be a project charter, could be a statement of work. Start there. Because that one document, which is usually 1 to 2 pages, is where you get buy in from your sponsor and functional managers. You circulate that piece of document with the different sections on it and you get their sign. Once you have that, that is your moment you start. Then you get resources assigned. And in my past projects, when I was working at Boeing, I was working as Nikeman, the things that I did was I always put this document together. No one looks at it except you, but you need this to get started. And then you circulate this, and then you approach those functional managers from whom you need support. This could be your operations, design, could be the apps team, the development team, the QA team, right? So you reach out to those functional managers and then they assign you resources. If you're in the company for a while, so you know, and if you work with people, so you would know the people you would want on your team, those who are hardworking and they're good to work with. So yes, you can put in your recommendation. You can ask functional managers like, I would like this person to be signed, but it's totally on the functional manager's discretion, right? Who they're going to be assigning. Sometimes your sponsor can be your advocate that, okay, we need this person, John, on the team or Susie on the team.
If I'm not wrong, you'd also be very cautious about your rate cards. In most cases, you'd have rate cards associated with projects. So you'd be given a budget and you need to work within the budget, right?
Yes, I've seen within the internal projects, we not always have a rate card, right? But yes, when it comes to the client side and when you are tracking budget, then yes, each resource has a different rate, right? The one who's more experienced, who's more pro, would have like maybe 200, 300, $500 an hour. And sometimes you're like, okay, we're going to go with $150 an hour employee on a project. So yes, that absolutely matters too.
So how does that really differ from working on a project which is on a T&M contract and something which is more of a fixed price?
When it comes down to time and material, T&M, as you said, your scope is not usually well defined. Scope is evolving. You know where you want to be at. Maybe you are designing a website, you're creating an app, you know what it needs to do, maybe how it looks like, but there are certain unknown elements through it. You want to deliver value through your every monthly or weekly engagement, whatever that looks like. Because I've seen, being on both the sides, I've seen like people start feeling that we are being taking misadvantage, like disadvantage, that time and material, they're taking more time and they're lazy. Whereas in fixed price contract, the company, or if you are if you have a fixed price contract and you are the company who's doing the work, you are really, and everyone on the team, especially the project manager and the sponsor, they're really tight that okay, we need to maintain that X percentage of profit or X percent of spend to make sure the project we are doing is valuable to the company.
So I get your point. So it's kind of different on where you stress or who gets stressed in which contract, but both of it works at different places, I believe.
And when it's a fixed price contract, and if you're a project manager and you go over budget, it's really a tough spot when that happens because it's really hard to go to the customer, ask for more money when there's no change in scope or there's no material change. It's just that your team or some situation occurred within the project environment that just pushed things out, right, in terms of budget or maybe schedule. Yeah, it really impacts. And I, I do coaching as well, so I hear that from my clients as well. They tell me like, yeah, when things go that way, like there's a huge amount of scrutiny, like why this happened. There are a lot of questions asked, and that becomes tough when it's mostly fixed price contracts.
Mm. So, do you think the value part of project management is something that you'd bring in that context? Like, what I'm trying to ask is, if it is a 6 months project and your project sponsor is completely unaware of what was happening in the last 6 months, and then at some point, you go at the fifth month, you talk to him, you tell him that you're probably gonna not get the value that you were expecting in the next month, so we might have to extend for another quarter. Now, I'm not sure if it is the right way to do it because 5 months he's not seen you at all or he's not heard from you the progress of it. So, when we talk about value, how do we make sure that we keep our stakeholders, both business and technical stakeholders, apprised about the progress of the project?
You know, when you say 5 months, like project was 6 months long, 5 months passed, and then you are telling your sponsor, that's a big mistake. So your
Yeah.
sponsor or your stakeholders, that's the biggest mistake you as a project manager can do. It's going to blow up in your face because
Mm.
that 5 months means hundreds and thousands of dollars were spent on it, right? In just
Right.
the labor cost or the man hours, right? And you know, after 6 months, the business was expecting an outcome. Maybe there was increase in revenue, more subscriptions, whatever that metric was. So you're not only just wasting the money upfront that was spent 5 months, you are affecting the opportunity cost that the company was trying to generate. And plus, in the next 6 months, you will be spending more money, right? Let's assume it's just uh, hours, right? Professional hours, no raw material, anything, right? So let's just say professional hours. So it's going to be a huge problem. What I will suggest and what I have done is communicate with your project sponsor like buddies. You're not telling him or her every single thing, but you're keeping them, giving them enough information that they need. And if the sponsor is brand new, like you are working with them for the first time, you would need to understand their style and what kind of information they like to digest on. Maybe it's a 5 months or 6 month project. So you must have some sort of cadence with them. Maybe weekly, bi weekly, at least, if not weekly, then bi weekly. Monthly
Mm.
is way too far. A lot of things can change in a month. So you have to keep them informed. And talking about stakeholders, you will be working with the team, but you need to let your project customer know as well. This could be internal, this could be internal or external. So you have to keep them informed. And you know what the thing is, like as a project manager, whether good news or bad news, you have to deliver it. And the sooner you deliver it, the better it is. And on top of that, since you are closest to the ground, if you can come up with recommendations after consulting the team, understanding the situation, come with two or at least come with three or at least two recommendations for your sponsor, for your customer, because you are closest to the ground. And if you do so and you bring the flags at the right time, you raise the flag at the right time, you will. you will see the difference. People will think you as an expert. They will respect you for that. And I remember, like, in my current role, the project was almost like 60 days away before we had to launch, and I raised a flag. I raised a risk that based on these A, B, C, I don't think we can deliver the project in the next 60 days. And my sponsor came back and said, we have 60 days. I don't see any reason why we can't get A, B, C, and D so that you can make this possible. So when you have the time, and there are tools like your risk register. If you think something that might go wrong, maybe, as you said, 6 months, maybe on month fifth, you have to write it down in your risk register. And if you think it's high enough, you communicate. Again, communicate, you can. It's best to start talking verbally, and then you can send an email or whatnot.
Yeah, that is so true. One instance that happened with my projects as well in the past. We had the project running, and we had a deadline. 3 months project. We had a deadline, and we usually spend around 2 weeks of testing whatever we built, all the while before it moves to any higher environment. I've come to quickly realize, like before a month, that this is not going to make to the QA cycle in the expected time, and from then on, it cascades in terms of the delay. So if I'm not able to make that QA in 2 weeks, I'm never going to make it to the production anytime
Right.
sooner, because we would have, a cycle then on. Like if there is a defect, then we need to work on it, send it back to the production. To the next environment, and so that's a cycle there. So the sooner you find out the risk, I think it's better that you could, find ways to eliminate it. And I think that also comes with experience, don't you think?
Absolutely. I speak with people, those who want to be better project managers and want to get into project management, and they're like, how do we manage risk? I said, it's as easy as you are going to take a flight. Imagine you are taking a flight, right? You're flying to, let's say, New Delhi, right, tomorrow. So you would book an Uber, something, right, before your departure time, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever that is. And you will take into account the traffic, right? If the traffic is heavy when you leave, that's a
Yep.
risk to your plan. You will consider, like, if the car or the taxi breaks down, there's a flat, what I'm going to do. If there's a railway crossing in your journey, you're like, okay, if the railway crossing is closed, there's a train, it will cause a delay. So these are risks. It's as simple as that. And when you are working in a specific industry, like if you're in IT, you're in tech, if you understand the basic concept, like the basic process, as you said, goes from one environment to, starts with the design team, developers, goes from one environment to the QA, and then to the different environments. As long as you understand the process, you should be able to find out those risks, and you don't have to do it by yourself. You speak with each of these teams, QA, developers, design. They will tell you that these are our risks. Everything is risky. You won't write down every single risk, but you want to note down those risks which could impact your project delivery date. And the sooner you do it, the better it is. And I would suggest, and that's what I do. It's better to raise more risk rather than no risk. You must have heard, like, under commit and over deliver. So it's exactly the same concept. You do mention, and if you think that this can derail, mention it. Maybe your sponsor, maybe your customer say, we don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's too low of a risk. Fine. Then it's on them, right? If it materializes, then you
Yeah.
basically transferred the responsibility over to them. They were the one who discredited it, and you
Right.
won't be stressed. That's what the point is. Why you want to be stressed as a project manager? Sorry, I'm adding a new thing here, but
No,
the stress
I mean,
element.
that's so true, because it's not just about communicating the risk, right? It's also about communicating the progress of that particular risk. Because so there is a risk, we've tried to mitigate it, but not all your mitigation plan should work, straightforward like success. There could be mitigations that could not work as well. So it's
Absolutely.
also about communicating constantly with the stakeholders on how you've tried to mitigate the risk and what is the progress on it, and do we still see that risk anymore? I mean, these are for known risks. Unknown risk is still uncontrollable, but I'd like to touch upon that as well. Like, how do we deal with unknown risk? Like, all of a sudden, market conditions,
Yep.
shift in market conditions, something around natural calamity. So these are things I'm pretty sure everyone, even the project sponsor, is aware of, but they don't really see its effect on the project as much as we do. So how do we go about doing that and letting people know? And it's also sometimes about instilling that confidence in your own team when things go wrong and we don't meet the timelines. So there's two types of I think communication here. One is with your project stakeholders, like the senior stakeholders, business sponsors, and with your team. So how do you go about navigating that situation? Like, I think it's two different communication again.
If you're leading a project, there are infinite number of things that can go wrong, right? Some are from your lessons learned, some are from your experience, some are from the organization that you know. These are known risks, right? You can, of course, have a risk mitigation strategy around them. Coming over to the unknown unknowns, which you don't know, you cannot write infinite or 100,000 risk, right? That there's no value to do so. So what you do is you have to, as I said, under promise, over deliver. Because if you're a project manager and if you keep loudspeaker on and you tell everyone like everything is going perfectly fine, that's not the right thing to do, because you're missing one thing. That's there are unknown elements, as you said, market situation, COVID happened, whatever. No one could have imagined that could happen. And what can happen tomorrow, you and I, in fact, no one knows it. So you have to keep that open, the door open, that yes, even though we are progressing to plan, we are very near to the end, but there's still some level of risk until you finally close and validate the deliverables and you close the project. There's still some risk. So you have to keep that door open, and you have to let, when you communicate, you present your project status, you meet with your sponsor, you let them know we have covered everything. These are 5 known risks. We have planned mitigations. We know when it might trigger. And yes, there's one point. There's one small door, which is unknown unknowns, which we don't know. So as long as you communicate that, because project managers, like what we do, we communicate, and you have to communicate them. You're closer to the ground. You let them know that there is the potential of this unknown risk. And when the people I have worked with, sponsors, like they understand. They said everything is risky. You have done a great job, and yes, there are things that can go wrong. So you have to plant that seed from the very beginning. Because if you will say everything is fine, you over commit, then it gets tough to sell or kind of step back later on. So again, this is like under commit and over deliver. I didn't invent it. I also learned from, like, maybe on the internet. Someone said it on the internet and I resonated with it, and that's what I'm repeating here.
No, I think it's a good strategy, under promise and over deliver, because at times it's better to always spring a surprise which is on the positive note to the project sponsor, which is something that they anyway is going to be happy about. But surprises towards the end, which are not something that they like, is not something that you'd want as a project manager in your team. And would you like to touch upon the team communication on the confidence aspect? How do you, like, if a 6 months project gets delayed, they probably are expected to work for another 2 months. They're not really sure if they're in the right direction. That's a different discussion altogether. How do we instill that confidence within the team that this is what is going to happen? I think it also translates back to how the project sponsor is being supportive of for the extension period, and how there is a contingency that was built in from the start. So how do we go about communicating that to the team and making sure that they're still on track with confidence?
When there's a delay, it's hard to communicate, because even if you're keeping close communication with your team knows it, right? If things are going to get delayed, team is the one who told you that we need more time. So you don't have to worry about them. And at the same time, you don't throw them under the bus. You work as a team. If they are delayed, you don't say they are delayed. You say we are delayed, because you are one team. And then comes your sponsor. Again, sponsor would be close to you, right? You keep your ongoing communication. So sponsor should must know what's going on. And then comes to other stakeholders like maybe senior leadership or maybe client. They would not like to hear that, right? But you have no option, right? You have to get in front of them and you have to tell them. The sooner you can tell them, the better it is, so that they can make up their mind, change their scope, or whatever alternatives there might be. So, what you have to do as a project manager is give them options. Yes, we are going to be delayed, but this is what we need. And you have to be upfront about what changed. What did you do about it that it does not change? Maybe you made some serious effort, but things are not in your control. It's external to the organization, or maybe whatever it is. You have to be open about it and present them with options. And you know what I have realized? The senior, the person in the organization, especially who has the power to make a decision, when you present them with such a situation, they would give you a solution. They would either take you to one side or the other. They won't leave you hanging in between.
Yeah.
But when you talk to middle management, I realize that they are most concerned about the blame should not be on me or that. Whereas the senior leadership or the person who can make the decision, they are like, okay, what do you need? What have you tried? They might have some questions on the process, they might have questions on the product, but they would they would take you to one side so that you have a decision made. So the sooner you can find that person who can make the decision, you will have to go through those steps, those system level middle management. But if you can reach that decision maker, you will feel a sign of relief.
Right. I think that impact stakeholders or decision makers, those people are the ones who you kind of get back to. I have a couple of decision makers that I often reach out to in my firm when things are not going good. That could also not be someone from your team. There are instances where I go for advices to a different team altogether, a
Yes,
different product altogether, and talk to their program manager, try to understand how they navigated that situation. It's not wrong. Sometimes the ego stops you from reaching out to other stakeholders who are like your peers, or maybe less experienced than you. But then if they're managing it better and if you're seeing results from their team, then why not? Why not ask their perspective on this? Why not tell them the problem and see where it leads to? They could have a different, idea altogether that you might implement, or it's still your choice. But you go for
absolutely.
advice.
Absolutely. Yeah, don't fear asking for help. Don't fear or think that you ask this person and that person will think you are incompetent. No, that doesn't happen, because at the end of the day you will learn what how they think, or you will get an idea from them. You don't have to implement it. It's just their perspective. And one word of caution is, do this only with people you trust in the organization, because there are all type of people, right? I respect everyone, but some people think differently than the others. So you want to have this kind of a mentorship, right? You asking them for their perspective, their mentor. Like, make sure the person you're talking to, you trust them.
Hmm. That's very important. Like, we shouldn't be at the same time giving into the organization politics as well. So
Yes,
got to stay away from
exactly.
that. Still choose the right mentor, and get advices from them. But on the same lines, one more quick point I wanted to add to people that who want to become aspiring project managers. I think we need to take that equation of our mind. Project manager doesn't mean that we are experts in everything that is involved in the project. We're still experts in project management, but if you're managing an engineering project, you might necessarily not be an engineering expert or a quality expert to per se. That's why you have people at manager level that can help you with that. Like, so it's more about communication with those teams. So sometimes what we end up doing is we take up so much stress on ourselves trying to decide for everyone, for every team. What's your thoughts on that, Udit? Have you had instances, or have you seen project managers do that in your journey or in your training session?
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
So you work on with technology teams, right? You work with developers, right?
Right.
What so let's say you are working on a project, you have a critical deadline to meet in the next 2 days, and your lead developer calls in sick, and you know there's work for him that needs to be done. And if that's not done today, you will 100% miss the deadline. What do you do? Do you leave your project manager hat and you wear a developer hat and you start coding? Do you do that? What would you do? You would reach out to that functional manager
Right.
who assigned you that resource, and you will ask them that,
Yep.
right, this developer is not here. We are supposed to deliver it today, or else we'll miss the deadline.
We probably sometimes will not be able to find out the intricacies of their tech stack, like with IT specifically, because that's too much for us to comprehend. At times, we might need experts who can call that out.
Like, let's say there are two resources, like two developers, they're equally good, right? They're head to head. One is on your project for the last 2 months and takes a sick leave, and you are like, okay, sometimes what happens for this new person to come up to speed for 1 day, it's not enough time or not enough value. It's better to just wait for that developer to come back tomorrow, because for that person, the new developer to come up to speed, it will take some time, right? As you said, he'll have to review the code and a lot of different things, understand the requirements. By the time that person will be up to speed, the other person might be back from his sick leave, right? So
True, and you would have in turn wasted both of their efforts in the last 2 days.
exactly. And what you need to do in such a situation is, like, when going back to your question, right? You are a communicator. You are close to the ground. You see the ground reality. Use your best judgment, and you reach out to the functional manager, because they might wear the hat. It's their job to decide. Your job as a project manager is to let them know this is what's going on in your project. This is going to be the impact. So let them make the decision. And when you have to go to your sponsor, your customer, maybe when you're going to the customer, if it's external, it will be hard sell, because again, you are one team. So if it's internal customer, it's easy to sell, but when it's external customer, yes, you'll have to find out a way to do something. And again, if it's a delay, it's a delay. And you know what? People understand that even on the customer side, they will give you some crap, they will give you some tough time, but if the resource is sick, the resource is sick. You can't do anything.
Yeah, true. End of the day, we're still humans, and certain things are unpredictable, and that's the best part of being a human.
And you will
Um,
notice even on the customer side, if you're talking to someone on the middle management, they'll give you a hard time. But when you go to their senior person or the decision maker, they will tell you, yes, we understand that, because they also manage a risk register on their end.
right.
Maybe it's virtual or maybe in someone's head, but yes, they also have that, this vendor. Like when you work with vendors, you know things can get delayed, right?
Yep.
So they have also kind of that risk management process going on.
That's so true. I think we covered a lot of aspects of project management. We started off with talking about transitioning into a PM role, and we slowly digressed to risk management, lessons learned registers, communication management, resource management. One important point on under promise and over deliver. Which I think I'll have to start getting that imbibed into all the things that I'm going to start delivering from now on, and impacts of contracts and how project sponsors need to be apprised on different situations. This was a truly wonderful conversation, Udit. Thank you so much for accepting this particular invite and being part of this show. You are the first program manager, by the way, that we've had on the show. It has all been product guys until now, and this is the first program manager that I'm talking to. It really was a very good project management discussion. Thank you so much, Udit, again.
Thank you, Vijay. And again, saying thank you and thanks for having me. Thanks for reaching out. Really appreciate.